Well, welcome to another video of my series, Freemasonry and Satanism. This is video number 45, and it is a revisit to Rabbi Marvin Antelman's books, To Eliminate the Opiate. And again, when we talk about Jewish people, it should be very clear that you can't talk about all Jewish people when you make a statement, positive or negative. Because there are the Orthodox, God-believing Jewish folks, and then there are some that are called the Reformed Jewish folks who turned away from the religious teachings that God gave to Moses up on the mountain. And so the Reformed Jewish folks turned away, and they are what we call the Zionist Jewish folks. And Rothschild, Rockefeller, and a lot of those people, I believe, are Jewish folks. And they are the Illuminati, in cahoots with many Christians and Vatican cooperation. Who's in charge? There's the funny question. Are the Jesuits in the Vatican in charge? Or are the Illuminati and the banks in charge? Or are the Zionists in charge? Or are they all in charge together? It's enough to give you a bit of a headache. On that note, I found in this book a little paragraph I might read that maybe can clear up the headache. The alleged diary of Adolf Hitler, which this writer does not believe is his diary, that would be Rabbi Marvin Antelman, nevertheless was published to get a Gnostic message across. That's the pagan religion. Here is the excerpt alleged to have been written by Hitler. Pay close attention to this bizarreness. I spoke too soon tonight. I attended a ceremony at which a human sacrifice took place. The man sacrificed was a young gypsy vagrant that members of the order had apparently captured as he wandered the streets of Munich. The object of this sacrifice was to materialize an elemental being, an incubus, for the purpose of impregnating a young Aryan girl, a member of the order, in hopes of bringing forth a child through this union who would be a precursor to the master race. Did you just understand the words coming out of my mouth? I'm going to read that again. The man sacrificed was a young gypsy vagrant that members of the order had apparently captured as he wandered the streets of Munich. The object of this sacrifice was to materialize an elemental being, an incubus, for the purpose of impregnating a young Aryan girl, a member of the order, in hopes of bringing forth a child through this union who would be the precursor to the master race. Oh my God. And then I talked about Dr. Stephen Greer in Exopolitics in California, where I got an email to buy a ticket to an event in the desert that he was going to do an incantation. They call it a Punja Sanskrit. And Sanskrit is the writing on the Egyptian temples, by the way. And all this stuff is right out of the Twilight Zone, which is my point with this whole New World Order, New Age, and discussion about the Israel and Zionism and Illuminati and the occultism and Hollywood and Rosicrucians and the backbone of the Freemason philosophies, religious focus, Luciferium if you read the books. So I'll go on with some more of this bizarre information here. I'm reading right from the book. This was the rabbi, the leading Jewish Congress of America. He was opposed to the Zionist program and the New World Order program and the Illuminati. Although the order was partially successful in materializing an entity, the impregnation never took place. Even with the UFO and the aliens, we have a lot of abductions. In many of the books I probably have 50 books on UFOs, aliens, and sightings and abductions. And over, there's the supposed abducting of people and taking the male sperm or the female eggs and making hybrid creatures or impregnating them. However, the idea of human sacrifice to appease certain cosmic forces was altogether a valid concept that had been used in the past. Again, Twilight Zone material. Is it real? Is witchcraft real? Magic real? Remote viewing real? Psychic communication with the other side real? I believe it is. I mean, even Jesus cast out a dozen different cases where he cast out demons at people who were possessed. But it had to be practiced on an extremely large scale. I wonder how big of a scale they're going to... Are they doing that now in the world with different kinds of weird electronic or chemicals and changes in our atmosphere and foods and computers and the microchips and spy cameras everywhere? And they keep talking about ascension. Perhaps a plan could be devised to rid the present world of inferior races. At the same time, make room for the coming race. Been watching my videos. I'm circling all around this stuff. On a large scale, great quantities of life forces could be released, serving as a powerhouse of cosmic energy. At the same time, one could do the world a great favor by ridding it of an inferior races. Diary of Adolf Hitler. Well, that's a lot of words there. So I'll back up and do a little bit more to see if it applies. Page 191, Reform Comes to America. A major challenge facing world Jewry is the shape of Judaism we fashion. So we know that Judaism, many people are into the cabala, magic, occultism. What is it? Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry's. He said that he went into meditation in Hollywood, and that's where he got the scripts for his Star Trek series with Captain Kirk and Spock, and even Spock with the ears. Interesting. All right. Shall the sculpture employ the Torah? That's the Jewish secret Bible. And the statute will yield to it its eternal values, or the fickle vanities of the zeitgeist, the spirits of the times, says Rabbi Samson Raphael Weiss. In Volume 1, Chapters 5 and 6, for other chapters of this book, we left a defeated Dr. Max Lichtenthal, 1815 to 1882. So this stuff goes way back. You have to pay attention to the whole picture to get the picture. And I keep reminding you of things in my videos. From 1840 to 1940, 100 years. And so they first started out with the European Psychic Society. And then a few years later, they started the American Society of Psychic Research. And we did some of my videos on those books. And maybe I'll address it again before this series is up. Where they would have mediums and contact entities on the other side. Like you wanted to contact your dead great-grandmother or something. And then there was remote viewing. So from 1840 to 1940, I get distracted sometimes here, outside. They were heavily into psychic research. There's all kinds of pamphlets and books out there, thousands. Mediums, people holding hands, apparitions, materializing right there at the table. So, Mr. Lichtenthal, who had been labeled the filthy German apostate, so he was a Jewish leader, and he was called the filthy German apostate. He suddenly left and went to the United States, where he was active as a rabbi, author and communal leader, 1815 to 1882. He was active in the Reform movement. He came to the United States at the time when the 48er communists were involved in the revolutions of 1848 throughout Europe. So when we talk about this new world order and this new age and all these things that are going on today, clearly for 200 years this campaign has been going on. Alright, back to the book. Alright, he was active in the Reform movement. There we go. They wanted to reform Jewry, the religion of the Jewish people. And they hated the Orthodox Jewish people. So again, when I say somebody says anti-Semite, what are you talking about? You're talking about the Jewish people who believe in God and want to be decent, moral, treat others how you want to be treated people? Or do you want to talk about the Reformed Jewry, who are the ones who are extremely liberal in their ideas of what you can do, including killing, stealing, and decadent sexual activities, the more horrific and abhorrent to God, apparently to them, the better. That's what you get when you read so many books. You start picking up the tone of what's going on. 48er communists were involved in the revolutions of 1848 throughout Europe. He and his friends came to the United States because they were persa non grata in their countries. Lichtenthal arrived in America in 1844 and served as Reformed rabbi in 2 congregations in New York. But he was too radical even for the Reform, and they dismissed him. He was thrown out of New York congregation in 1850 and opened a Reform religious school. He left that in 1855 and went to Cincinnati and became the assistant editor of the American Israelite. So 1855. And these people who have who control the United States now, all the staff members of Obama and Bush, most of them were either dual citizens with Israel and the United States, or Jewish entities like Alan Greenspan controlling our Federal Reserve, which it says in all this material, they hold their national patriotism more to Israel than they do to any country they're in. They say that. And he said before, Alan Greenspan, that they were running a program calling economic destruction. And just keyword on your computer, Alan Greenspan, economic destruction. And you will see before Congress he is asked, won't people get hurt? And Allen says, yes, some people will get hurt. Now the American Israelite was run by the Sabbatans, oh boy, and founded by Sabbatan Isaac Mearwise, a reformed cleric who we pointed out in chapter 19, married Frankist royalty. These are all the Illuminati higher-ups. Littendal headed the Reform congregation, Sons of Israel. He also founded a review in English called Hebrew Review, and the weekly news called the Sabbath School Visitor. Reform hatred for religious Jews was also manifested in the United States. Did you hear what I just said? Reform hatred, this is the Reformed Jews, opening up new colleges to produce rabbis, by the way, and eliminating the Orthodox colleges that were producing rabbis. But Reform hatred for religious Jews was also manifested in the United States, and he tried to use his influence to stop immigration of religious Jews into the country. And we know after World War I, they brought hundreds of thousands of Yiddish, Russian Jews into the United States, building barracks and everything, shipping them over, and no other peoples from other countries were allowed to immigrate during those years, which alarmed immigration officials. So they were bringing us the, I guess you could say, Illuminati evil Jewish people into this country to promote communism and revolution like they did overseas. He persuaded largely Reform German Jewish communities in the United States, some 300,000 strong by 1881, to use their influence to prevent it. That is, to prevent good Jewish folks from getting in the United States. He did not want them in the United States. That's what it says here. He sought to have them diverted to Israel. One of the great critics of the Reform movement in the United States of the 19th century was Rabbi Bernard Hillary. Anyways, he was a great rabbinic scholar and held a university PhD. Hillary conducted fights with the Reform movement. So this great rabbinic scholar was fighting with the Reformed movement rabbis. He drove Wise and Littendal up a wall in 3 languages, Hebrew, English, and German. Okay, he accused them of writing prayers that deny prophecy, celebration on fast days, trying to abolish Jewish marriage, violating dietary laws, using brass instruments instead of the shofar at their religious ceremonies, burying Jews and Gentiles in the same cemetery, not separating the men and women in the synagogue, and violating its sanctity. So my point to all this is there's just something more going on here than we the people know. And I believe we the people should know a little bit more about the world we live in and the people who are in control of the United States and how they think. Wise established 3 major institutions of the Reform movement in America after moving to Cincinnati, Ohio in 1854. And 1873 was the Union of American Hebrew Congregations, the organizational arm of the Reform congregations. Now remember, these are the people who cause revolutions, who get the poor against the middle class against the poor, the blacks against the whites, the U.S. citizens against people coming in to immigrate or crossing the border from Mexico, or American people hating the Islamic people. They cause the divide and conquer mentality, and sit back and watch the 2 people that they pit against each other kill each other, like they're doing right now in the Middle East with the Sunnis and the Shiites, the Islamic peoples. Continuing on, the Hebrew Union College, a seminary devoted primarily to training Reformed clergy, rabbis, teachers in America, and Central Conference of American Rabbis, the Organization of Reformed Clergy. All kinds of organizations working towards goals and aims that one must ask oneself, are they a danger to the USA people's way of life? These organizations still exist and are the crux of reform in America. Selecting Cincinnati as the center of this activity was no mere accident. It was the center of Illuminati and Sabbatan cooperation. Well, there you have it. We know who the Illuminati is. That's Rockefeller, Rothschilds, all the secret organizational pyramid of all the Masonic lodges. And in their textbooks, they worship Lucifer. So we can put two and two together and say that these Reformed Jewish folks who are involved in the Illuminati and Sabbatan Corporation, and according to what we see on TV, the movies, and the Eurovision, Chiquita Warcht winning the Eurovision like American Idol, with her head dressed up like Jesus and her body like a woman, singing the song Phoenix Rising with the words, "You can't stop us." And when the name, do I have to explain it again? Conchita Wurst. First name P-U-S-Y, last name Wurst is sausage. The sick insanity of all this is sick and insane. This is what we're dealing with the mentality of the people who run this country. Look at Alex Jones and his video of the Bohemian Grove, where the grown men dress up in robes, naked, I suppose, according to rumors, and they ship in gay men, and they have a satanic ritual event, and they throw a baby in a fire. And when questioned about this, they said it wasn't a real baby, it was an effigy. And as I keep saying, does that really make a difference? Wise Sabbatan 48ers and American Illuminati were secretly active in the Knights of the Golden Circle, who wished to restore the South. 3 of their leaders were sentenced to death. However, they were so politically powerful that when they were released upon appeal to the Supreme Court, these people were involved in setting up the Ku Klux Klan. The Reformed Jewish folks? The Illuminati? The Sabbatans? Well, I suppose they would be. That's like the Masonic group, Ku Klux Klan, which, by the way, KKK is a little scary, because if you know numerology, A is 6, B is 2 times 6, 12, C is 3 times 6, 18. So K equals 66. And so KKK is 666666. FYI. These people were involved in setting up the Ku Klux Klan, which William Hillary exposed as communist-controlled in his book Clandestine. Here we go, tying all this stuff together. I'm not making it up. However, it is logical that reform would have anything to do with the Klan. Is it logical? Reform cleric Stephen S. Wise, 1862-1949, was a secret member of the Communist Party. So in Revelation, the last book of the Bible, it clearly says, Jews who call themselves Jews but are not. The fever spread in October 26, 1923. The headline in the Dallas News reported, "Klan Day at the Fair. Great throngs participate in colorful Klan initiation at the park." The Klan had implemented itself so deeply in Dallas life, private and public, that the state fair sought to designate a day in its honor. There we go. At the time of I Am Wise, reform had committed major heresies. However, it has still maintained allegiance to the Noahic laws. This changed in the 70s and was discussed in Volume 1 of this book, published in 1974. Thereafter, it began to accelerate. In 1990, the CCAR announced that one could be a homosexual or lesbian rabbi in the movement. According, they could no longer even qualify as religious Gentiles. Finally, in 1996, they did something worse, passing a resolution sanctifying gay and lesbian marriages. So let's see if I got this straight. The Reformed Jewry people who worship Lucifer are sanctifying gay and lesbian marriages, so they are for it. The Talmud, discussing why God does not destroy the Gentiles if homosexuality is so rampant among them, replies that they don't have the chutzpah to sanctify their unions. The resolution is as follows. They have a resolution here. Resolution of gay and lesbian marriages, amended at the 107th Annual Convention of the Central Committee of American Rabbis, March 1996. So should anyone wonder what this movement from the United Nations, which is controlled by the Illuminati, the meditation room in the United Nations, is clearly satanic, rituals, pagan, Gnostic. And so now we know at least $1 billion in the last 10 has been promoted for the gay agenda and the New Age agenda, which both use the rainbow as its symbol, interestingly enough. So who, why, what, and where, if you wanted to know, powerful people are behind it, and they worship Lucifer. Consistent with our Jewish commitment to the fundamental principle that we are all created in a divine image. Which divine image? God or Lucifer's? The Reform movement has been the vanguard of the support for the full recognition of equality for lesbians and gays in society. Well, I guess the gays and lesbians in society ought to be embracing the Central Conference of the American Rabbis. In 1977, the CCAR, the Central Conference of American Rabbis, adopted a resolution encouraging legislation which would decriminalize homosexual acts between consenting adults and prohibit discrimination against them as persons, followed by its adoption in 1990. As a substantial position paper on homosexuality and the rabbinate. Then in 1993, Union of American Hebrew Congregations observed that committed lesbian and gay couples are denied the benefits routinely accorded to married heterosexual couples. It is further resolved that the CCAR opposed government efforts to ban gay and lesbian marriage. So there you have it, a little more education on this rabbi's opinion of the Jewish Congress of the United States, of the goings-on with the Reformed movement. And I thought now that we would do that, maybe a little bit more of this book here, The Protocols of Zion, will make a little bit more sense. The last video we left off, we did Protocol 1, 2, and 3. And this one here we're going to do 4, 5, and 6. Protocol number 4. Who and what is in a position to overthrow the invisible force? Remember, the Protocols of Zion is in reference to Zionism, which is, and we know about Aliyah, where all the Jews all over the world are being coerced, bribed, coached to move to Israel, from Argentina to the United States, and pack up all their bags and sell their belongings and do Aliyah to go home. Why? Who and what is in a position to overthrow an invisible force? And this is precisely what our force is. This is Zionism here. They're saying they're an invisible force. Gentile masonry, see, they're talking that they're Masons, blindly serves as a screen for us. And we know lower level Masons who join the lower lodge and do it for fellowship. I know a lot of people don't know what's really going on. Gentile Masonry blindly serves as a screen for us and our objects. But the plan of action of our force, even its very abiding place, remains for the whole people an unknown mystery. I copied this off the internet. Anyways, this page here, you got to see it to believe it. It says here, we shall destroy God. But even freedom might be harmless and have its place in the state economy without injury to the well-being of the people if it rested upon the foundation of faith in God, upon the brotherhood of humanity, unconnected with the conception of equality, which is negated by the very laws of creation, for they have established subordination. With such a faith as this, a people might be governed by the wardship of the parishes, and would walk contently and humbly under the guiding hand of its spiritual pastor, submitting to the dispositions of God upon earth. So they said if people believe in God, then they follow the church, we might have a harmonious society. This is the reason why it is indispensable for us to undermine all faith, to tear out of the mind of the goyim, that would be people who are not Jewish, they call them cattle also, the very principle of Godhead and the Spirit, and put in its place arithmetical calculations and material needs. So they don't want you to believe in God, they want you to worry about your food stamps, your Social Security check, and making money any way you can. In order to give the goyim no time to think and take note, their minds must be diverted towards industry and trade. Thus all the nations will be swallowed up in the pursuit of gain, and in the race for it will not take note of their common foe. But again, in order for that freedom may once for all disintegrate and ruin the communities of the goyim, we must put industry on a speculative basis. The result of this will be that what is withdrawn from the land by industry will slip through the hands and passed into speculation, that is, to our classes. So I guess we can say if they own all the farms and all the manufacturing, I got some bright light here, the intensified struggle for superiority and shocks delivered to economic life will create, nay, has already created, disenchanted, cold, heartless communities. Hatred towards the privileged, the lower classes of the goyim, will follow our lead against our rivals for power, the intellectuals of the goyim. So what they're saying here is they're going to get the lower classes of the people in the United States, the 99% who have nothing, to go after the few people who are intellectuals. So we know that they're trying to get the middle class to be blaming the poor and the poor to be blaming the middle class. So apparently our middle class are some of our intellectuals, and they will cause the poor to rile up against them because the 1% is pretty much protected and hidden, and probably is these people, these Illuminati, the Zionists. I hope I'm making my point, and that is nobody should hate all the Jews. Just like Christians or Muslims, there are good people and bad people in all of these races and religions. What we have to worry about are these secret societies and intentional occultic spiritualist people who worship Lucifer and are planning on this New World Order. And Protocol 5 will tell us some more about their plans. What form of administrative rule can be given to communities in which corruption has penetrated everywhere, communities where riches are attained only by clever surprise tactics of semi-swindling tricks? Excuse me. My voice gets hoarse from talking. We shall create an intensified civilization of government in order to grip in our hands all the forces of community. We shall regulate mechanically all the actions of the political life of our subjects by new laws. These laws will withdraw one by one all the indulgences and liberties which have been permitted to the goyim. I've been saying this for a while. All the people, 50% of America, on some kind of aid, welfare, stamps, and taking over all the farms and water companies, electric. They're going to nip that in the bud when they pull off the New World Order, the Great Revolution in America, where everybody fights with everybody and riots in the streets, like Fogarty recently, and the police are dressed up like Gestapo agents. All planned. Where did they get that equipment? Why was it all set up like that? And our kingdom will be distinguished by a despotism of such magnificent proportions as to be at any moment and in every place in a position to wipe out any goyim who oppose us by deed or word. That's why they're spying on everybody with the computers. They know who knows too much. So maybe you want to turn off this video and close your eyes, close your ears, and close your mouth. Masses led by lies. Moreover, the art of directing masses and individuals by means of cleverly manipulating theory and verbiage, by regulations of life in common and all sorts of other quirks, like the lies of global warming on Mondays and global cooling on Tuesdays and climate change on Wednesdays. And all during the week, during those days, there's sky spraying chemicals in your sky. And then they have the HARP system, which can send microwaves into the air. Now 6 or 7 of those huge systems strategically placed around the globe. Weather warfare, you gotta look that up on the internet. All sorts of other quirks, in all which the goyim understand nothing, belongs likewise to the specialists of our administrative brain. Jesuits alone might have compared with us, but we have contrived to discredit them in the eyes of the unthinkable mob as an overt organization, while we ourselves all the while have kept our secret organization in the shade. However, it is probable all the same to the world who has its sovereign Lord, whether the head of Catholics or our despot of the blood of Zion, but to us, the chosen people, it is very far from being a matter of indifference. So they say generally the people of the world don't care who controls it, the Catholic Church or their blood of Zion, because they think most people are stupid and don't think and contemplate what's going on or read books. That's why I do these videos, to give you the shortcut to get the books. For a time, perhaps, we might be successfully dealt with by a coalition of the goyim of all the world. Goyim equals non-Jewish people. Specifically, Reformed Jewish people. But from this danger we are secured by the discord existing among them whose roots are so deeply seated that they can never now be plucked up. We have set one against another the personal and national reckonings of the goyim, religious and race hatreds, which we have fostered in a huge growth in the course of the past 20 centuries. Well, they've been busy at this for 200 years. They just said so. 20 centuries, a century is 10 years, right? Or is that 2,000 years? I don't know everything. We are too strong. There is no evading our power. The nations cannot come to even an inconsiderable private agreement without our secretly having a hand in it. So they're saying we can't solve our problems. They're solving the problems for us. Well, most people, I'll have to say, are misinformed and don't know the truth, so it is hard to make decisions. The middle class probably really believe it's the poor that are the problem. And the poor probably actually believe it's the middle class that's keeping them poor. But we know who the real culprits are. The secret societies, the hidden hand. Per me regens regent. Whatever that means. It is through me that kings reign. That's what it means. And it was said by the prophets that we were chosen by God himself to rule over the whole earth. God has endowed us with the genius that we may be equal to our task. Capital, if it is to cooperate untrammeled, must be free to establish a monopoly of industry. So they're saying the Federal Reserve, and the other banksters, if it is to cooperate untrammeled, must be free to establish a monopoly of industry and trade. This is already being put into execution by unseen hand in all quarters of the world. The Protocols of Zion. Look it up on the internet, print out a copy. Highlight it like I do. Nowadays, it is more important to disarm the peoples than to lead them into war. More important for us, for our advantage, the passions which have burst into flames, than to quench their fire. More important to eradicate them. So they're going to eradicate the goyim. Can't make this stuff up. Look up the Protocols of Zion. In order to put public opinion into our hands, we must bring it into a state of bewilderment by giving expression from all sides to so many contradictory opinions, and for such length of time as will suffice to make the goyim lose their heads and come to see that the best thing is to have no opinion of any kind in matters political. Try talking to people these days about the stuff going on, and they'll get angry and tell you to shut up. The second secret requisite for the success of our government is comprised in the following: to multiply to such an extent national failings, habits, passions, conditions of civil life, that it will be impossible for anyone to know where he is in the resulting chaos, so that the people in consequence will fail to understand one another. This measure will also serve us in another way, namely to sow discord in all parties, to dislocate all collective forces which are still unwilling to submit to us, and to discourage any kind of personal initiative that might in any degree hinder our affair. There is nothing more dangerous than personal initiative. So they don't want you to think for yourself, or to think at all. If it has genius behind it, such initiative can do more done by one than by millions of people among whom we have sown discord. So they're saying here, one person with initiative can do more than millions of people whom they have sown discord. By all these means we shall so wear down the goyim that they will be compelled to offer us international power of a nature that by its position will enable us, without any violence, gradually to absorb all the states' forces of the world and to form a super government. In place of the rulers of today, we shall be a bogey, which will be called the super government administration, which is going to be a bogey, a decoy, a lie, a deception. Alright, I said I'm going to do 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this one here is just 2 pages. Protocol number 6. We shall soon begin to establish huge monopolies, reservoirs of colossal riches, upon which even the large fortunes of the goyim will depend, to such an extent that they will go to the bottom together with the credit of the states on the day after the political smash. Compulsory superannuation Social Security. So it's all going to crash. They say they're going to crash it. In every possible way, we must develop the significance of our super government by representing it as a protector and benefactor of all those who voluntarily submit to it. This is when they're going to crash everything, and you have to take the mark of the beast, 666, if you want to buy or sell, as per the Bible. The leaders of the Goyim as a political force are dead. It is essential, therefore, for us, at whatever cost, to deprive them of their land. This object will be the best attained by increasing the burdens upon the land. So you won't have any income, but your taxes and insurance will go through the roof. So you will lose your land. In loading lands with debts. These measures will check land holding and keep it in a state of humble and unconditional submission. We shall enslave the Gentiles. That's what it says here on Protocol number 6. The Goyim will bow down before us, if for no other reason, but to get the right to exist. So you'll bow down before them just so you can live and eat. Remember, they're going to throw you a few crumbs off their table. To complete the ruin of the industry of the Goyim, we shall bring to the assistance of speculation the luxury which we have developed among the Goyim, that greedy demand for luxury which is swallowing up everything. We shall raise the rates of wages, which, however, will not bring any advantage to the workers, for at the same time we shall produce a rise in prices. So they'll double your wages, but they'll also double the price of food and rent, electricity and gas and everything else. So you will recognize no gain, probably a net loss, a very slow sinking, which causes stress and depression. Rise in price of the first necessities of life, alleging that it rises out from the decline of agriculture. That's why they have global warming and the droughts that they're controlling. And the cattle breeding, we shall further undermine artfully and depend deeply sources of production by accustoming the workers to anarchy and to drunkenness. To extirpate from the face of the earth, exterminate from the face of the earth all the educated forces of the Goyim, in order that the true meaning of things may not strike the Goyim, before the proper time, we shall mask it under an alleged ardent desire to serve the working classes and the great principles of political economy, about which our economic theories are carrying on an energetic propaganda. So there you have it. Protocols of Zion 4, 5, and 6. And more from Marvin Antelman about the differences between the God-believing religious Jewish folks, who I support. And I wish more of them would speak up too. You don't have to be Jewish to be speaking up. Anybody can speak up and learn a little bit. And the Reformed Jewry, which seems to be in cahoots with the Illuminati, the Zionism, Frankists, Sabatins, Hollywood, Church of Satan, Illuminati, Freemasonry, bought and paid for politicians, Bohemian Grove, throwing a baby in the fire, and all the other craziness with the all-seeing eye on the dollar. So thank you for watching my video, and I didn't want to leave the last couple videos on a note of anti-Jewish, because that is not the case. I'm anti the devil, and I'm anti New World Order, and all the lies and propaganda, and they are destroying our economy and controlling our industries and our farms, and taking away our own power to control ourselves and feed ourselves. Those are serious concerns. Thank you. Well, I thought I would just reiterate something that I started this video with. to try to get my point across a little clearer. The alleged diary of Adolf Hitler. So this is what he said. Now, just put this into context of aliens, UFOs, Dr. Stephen Greer, all the craziness propaganda they're feeding us. I spoke too soon. Tonight, I attended a ceremony in which a human sacrifice took place. The man sacrificed was a young gypsy vagrant that members of the order had apparently captured as he wandered the streets of Munich. If you go on YouTube, you can find videos of satanic churches running around in vans, abducting people and having sacrifices. And there are many other cases of sacrifices taking place. It's just a little bit beyond belief. It's the Twilight Zone. But apparently it's really happening. The object of the sacrifice was to materialize an elemental being. That is an apparition, a spiritual being. The way they describe a lot of the aliens. That's why I did the alien book videos, which I shall do some more. And a lot of the sophisticated, intelligent people out there in this research are starting to recognize the spiritual, interdimensional nature of it. So I thought I would review this last little paragraph that we started this video with. The incubus, for the purpose of impregnating a young Aryan girl, a member of the order, in hopes of bringing forth a child through this union, who would be a precursor to the master race. Well, from the Protocols of Zion, we know what those people, chosen by God, think of the rest of us. And we know that Hitler was into trying to create the master race. And we know that the technology today, with Monsanto, even making seeds with herbicides or pesticides, DNA strands in them, that's dangerous to the human to eat. Your body doesn't recognize that food as food. It recognizes it as an enemy and tries to attack it. Hence, attack you. And we know that, if you watch the news, there's been all kinds of weird fish and creatures caught lately. And they're into cloning and other things. So what has going around for thousands of years, even in the Bible, seems to be coming around again. So again, I'm trying to point out who the real enemy is. It seems to be the same enemy that has been described even in the Bible and ancient texts and on monuments in the past. From Peru and the great statues offshore on Easter Island. The Lebanon with the gigantic granite stones the size of buildings. The pyramids, just is so much out there that apparently in the past they were into this genetic manipulation, Anunnaki or whatever you want to call them. Anyways, so although the order was partially successful in materializing an entity, so it says that something did materialize during this sacrificing ritual, if you want to know why they have sacrifice rituals. The impregnation never took place. However, the idea of the human sacrifice to appease certain cosmic forces was altogether a valid concept that had been used in the past. But it had to be practiced on a extremely large scale. So, you wonder about some of these school killings and 911 and all kinds of Oklahoma City bombing where they had a daycare. Were they having a satanic ritual? I mean, we know from some of my research that these things are done on certain days. Satanic holidays. Perhaps a plan could be devised to rid the world of the inferior races. We just read the Protocols of Zion. And at the same time, make room for the coming super race. We talked in the Protocols of Zion, they talk about ruling the world and thinking that they're a lot smarter than the rest of us. And they're bringing people with a liar from all over the world of a specific DNA, I guess, to Israel. Are they planning on a coming super race? On a large scale, great quantities of life forces could be released. So when they do the big bombings and 911 and Oklahoma with this school daycare center. Great quantities of life forces that could be released. Is that what happens when you explode a nuclear bomb and you kill 1 million people? Are you releasing great quantities of life forces that could be released, serving as a powerhouse of cosmic energy, and at the same time one could do the world a great favor by ridding it of the inferior races? Okay, now I'm done with this video. But I just wanted to end it where I began it, that people could wrap their heads around what we're dealing with. Thank you for watching my videos. We all need to wake up. And God help us all, I pray.